So this week is, well, it has been a special week already, but this week is all about the ending of eras and the beginning of others. On the weekend, we saw Paul Seaman joined an august group of Anzac Day medalists like Mark McGough and Paul Medhurst as Collingwood's newest sensation and potential superstar. We all knew he had it in him, but he really had the chance to shine on the big stage. That was a great moment. And as I alluded to, the ending of a legendary career for Mick Malthouse, who will be coaching his last game ever this week, Wait, you mean he's not coaching his last game? No, he will be. It's fine. After what we do to Carlton this week, he will have no choice but to retire. But retire breaking a record nonetheless. It is a record that I honestly thought would stand the test of time, especially after Sheedy retired early. What are your thoughts on it, GC?
Oh, well, good luck to Mickey. I hope he has a nice night tomorrow night. And as I say, it wouldn't be an unhappy thought to think he had his last night, you know. And I just hope we built the crap out of him, to tell you the truth. Am I allowed to say that?
I think that's yeah, absolutely. Of course we're allowed to say that. Magpie Girl, this is approved, yeah?
Absolutely.
Excellent.
No holding back.
But more on the streak breaker / deal breaker / professional a-hole later on. Let's start by talking about the weekend that was. Anzac Day, big game, great showing for us, and really beat the Peptide Bombers into submission. I really enjoyed the game for what it was as a defensive spectacle on our part. What were your thoughts, GC?
Yeah, I thought it was fantastic. Obviously, I think it highlights our strengths. You know, I think and what it highlights what Buckley's got us doing is we're playing as a team. Absolute commitment from everyone. Everyone's doing the team things. I think it has still also highlighted our deficiencies with disposal because, you know, we did, again, turn it over a lot and manically got it back, and they didn't hurt us on the turnover like maybe an Adelaide did. So it was more of the good and more of the not so good for me.
Oh, and you're absolutely right. And the thing is, I was talking to a mate about this while I was watching the game, and he was an Essendon supporter, and he completely agreed that if we were a better kicking side and a better disposing side, we would have been 40 points up by half to three-quarter time.
Mm.
And that was, I think, that kind of lets the performance down a little bit. But when you look back and you say we allowed 49 points for the game against the team that, should be contending around the top 4 mark, I think it's quite pleasing.
Oh, absolutely pleasing. I think it just showed our contrast, and if we could only deliver by foot.
Mm.
But it's building. I mean,
it's building. Yeah. Oh, I'm happy. Look, I was very happy with the result.
Weeks, yeah.
Am I missing something with Jackson Ramsey? Is it just something that I'm not getting when I see his game? And mind you, I didn't think Goldsack had a great game on the weekend. I thought he turned it over and didn't look great.
He was fantastic.
Yeah,
I reckon he could have got the medal.
Well, see, I don't know. I failed to notice his contribution, and maybe that's the beauty of him as a player, and maybe that's the beauty of his role. But I think my focus was, and I was reading through some comments on Ramsey's game, and I thought, gee, I didn't think he was that good. Am I actually missing something with this?
I think. Look, I think he did a couple of standout mistakes, but I thought he did a couple of really good things too. And I thought at the match, I thought to myself, when I left or halfway through the match, I thought to myself, geez, Ramsey's probably maybe needs to have a trip back to the twos.
Yeah.
By the end of the match, I thought, no, he'd done some. And then I watched the replay, and I said, no, he had a good game.
Yeah.
So that was my take on him.
Yeah, it might be worth another watch back.
He's unobtrusively elegant.
And I remember reading a lot of the posters. Obviously he did play on Chapman, and obviously Chapman didn't see out the game and didn't have much of an influence when he was on the field. So, look, they're doing something right.
He attacks the ball very hard.
Oh, look, I can't question his endeavour. I think I mentioned this in the player review thread. I'm a big supporter of his, and I have been as a junior. It's just I think the transition's been difficult for him, and maybe he is adapting slowly, and it's just the mistakes that stand out for me because we've talked about disposal a fair bit in prior shows, and coming out of the back half, it will hurt us. But The one thing that didn't hurt us coming out of the back half was Paul Seedsman. This was almost a breakout game for him.
Oh yeah, he was special. He I thought I looked up at the scoreboard at quarter time and saw 12 disposals. I thought yes, he's been good, but he just filled out the whole game, and he probably in the second half he didn't have as much of it, but he used it even better.
And he's just got such a lovely kick on him. It's it's good to have a player like that in the team. Look, I thought it was a great team effort. I really enjoyed, the effort that everyone put in. Another good game from Crisp.
Crisp and Brown and Frost.
Frost was my Anzac Day medalist. Because I think just to completely, for those two boys to completely take the Essendon forwards out of the game and obliterate any sort of structure that the Essendon forward line have was just so important and so crucial to us.
And Frost on multiple occasions to leave his man and do it correctly, and his closing speed on some of those where Essendon, look, you thought he's not going to get there, and he got there and he spoiled and really cut off some pretty telling, attacks from them.
This blue collar defence is actually looking quite good, and one wonders when Reid is fit, and the discussion has been about Reid coming, into the back line this year. I personally don't think there should be a spot for him right now because obviously the dynamic is working well.
I agree. If you ask me, where would you like? I'd love to see Gold out, perhaps, and Reid in, or Jesse White out. I think if he and Travis plus Witts Grundy, I think that would be an ideal sort of forward setup.
Sort of a black cloud hanging over the weekend. Darcy Moore and his injury. I don't think they're yet to confirm the timeline out. And we haven't had a good start to the VFL year. Is this something that we should be concerned about?
Well, I had a little look at the board tonight, and apparently there's a release that there is a tendon aspect to the injury, and it's going to be fairly long term. So it's a worry.
It's a bit of a concern. I don't have an issue with it in so much as that it's his. No injury is a good injury, but the fact that it's come early in the first year, which is always going to be a development year for him, he's still got to fill out his body and put on the size to be the big key position player he will be, and certainly it affects his ability to show a little bit of something. I think that the VFL form as a whole is a little bit concerning. I think there's something missing there. I mean, did you watch the game on the weekend?
I've got it on tape, and I've only got through one quarter so far.
I think the most damning thing about it, and it was noticeable even from the early parts of the game, is that there's no forward structure and no tall target to kick it to. If Galt's out of that side and Reid's not playing, and he's playing in defence anyway, no Keefe for obvious reasons, we look really, really devoid of structure up there. And you don't want to have a bad year in the twos because, we want to be providing a good foundation for our youth to come up into the seniors. I always have these big concerns. If we cop an injury to someone like Travis Cloke, who are we replacing him with?
We're threadbare at the moment for key position forwards, definitely.
But they must struggle a bit, mustn't they? They kind of get whoever's not playing in the ones this week. They have the inexperienced players. They must just have that constant turnover each week. We talk about that in the ones, the trying to settle into a team. They really don't have that capacity in the VFL, do they?
Well, I think for the big guys though, at the moment, I think when you look at Witts has been limited. You've got Reid's out. You've got Keefe out, who's going to stay out. It's just a number of big guys. We are short on big guys.
Yeah, and I think it's certainly been a deficiency for a couple of years. And we never really have drafted a lot of big players at a time. So the dearth is not a new thing, but we will we'll hopefully see a few positive signs and maybe something at the draft table. But the positive news for the VFL side is the return of young Scharenberg this week, which I think was teased last week. But I think it's confirmed. I think it's set in stone. It's happening, Victoria Park. This is exciting news.
Oh, very exciting news, that. I'm going to get down there and see him because he's one of the ones we want to see. And and again, I think people have to be a bit tempered about what we expect from him. I just want to see him get through the game. And I watched him when he played last year, and he was tentative, understandably, because he'd missed a season of footy. Now he's missed almost 2 seasons.
Yeah.
I think, let the kid at least have good, 10 weeks of running around in the VFL and get his touch back won't be a problem. If it takes him the rest of the season, it won't be a problem.
He's going to take some time to get that confidence in his body as well.
Even Freeman's doing that, I think, at the moment. He glowed in the pre-season, but that was in running and things. But, he missed a whole year of football, and he just needs to get confidence in his body. I think we give these kids time.
And you can certainly see it. And I think the injury has a big effect on him. Someone like DeGoey, who comes in, and he's had a couple of really good games in the VFL in a row because he has that confidence. He hasn't missed that football. Yeah. And psychologically, that confidence that you have in your own body to do certain things, it's a big thing. It's a big mental hurdle to get over for especially young guys who may not have encountered a lot of injury in their career prior. Yeah. And to find that belief to say, no, my body can still do this at the highest level. I've just got to push myself.
And they're stepping from under 18, miss a year of footy, and then they're not trying to regain themselves at the same level. They're actually trying to regain themselves at the next level up. So, I agree. The confidence is, they just give them time to get their confidence.
I do get this feeling, though, there will be a late change, and we'll talk about the Carlton game in a moment, but I do get the feeling that young DeGoey will be brought in as a late change. But more on that a little bit later on. The big story at hand coming into this weekend, obviously, is Mick Malthouse breaking the all-time coaching record. And all jokes aside, it's a big milestone to him. It's a testament to his longevity in the game. But from a Collingwood perspective, and coming as a Collingwood supporter, how are you seeing this event, GC?
I'm sad to see it, really. If you honest truth, I think Jock McHale was, his records I like to see live on. And so good luck to Mick. He's not our coach anymore. Carlton can celebrate that. The wider football community can celebrate that, and we can puncture the night for him.
Oh, fingers crossed. Look, I certainly think that, as a supporter base, we certainly appreciate and respect everything that Mick did for us as a coach.
Yes.
Most of it.
But so we should. He did a lot of good for us. And by the same token, the respect for the football club, I think, as a man and as a good football person that he is, I think that there should be a mutual respect back to the football club that honestly gave him the opportunity to break this coaching record. I mean, if it wasn't for the contract extension we gave him in 2009, he wouldn't have his current contract at Carlton.
Yeah.
And I think that the bad blood and all that, really needs to the veil needs to lift a little bit on this, and I think that he really should be quite respectful to a club that he gave a lot of years to, that gave him a lot of time to fulfil his coaching aspirations, and the feeling should be fairly mutual.
Yeah, I agree, but I think I'm a little bit disappointed in Mick. I thought Bucks this week has gone out of his way to try and be complimentary and settle him down with the whole
fair and respectful.
Yeah, but, even Mick today in The Sun had that article where he said, well, if I had my time over, I'd like to pick Leon Davis in the 2010 grand final because he deserved it, and I don't want to offend Tyson Goldsack. Well, I find that very offensive. Harry O'Brien hasn't talked to me, and Luke Ball hasn't talked to me. Why is he airing all that? He seems to just want to percolate that discontent at Collingwood.
Yeah.
I think he certainly enjoys the reputation that he's built as the man that not a lot of people have a lot of time for in football. Look, you know what? For me, the big questions about his character came out after the 2003 grand final, Jason Cloke incident, and to show that level of contempt and disrespect for your player, that was something that I certainly didn't appreciate. But it's no surprise to me, and nothing that he says and does right now could surprise me. But certainly I hope when his time is through with the game, whether it be the end of this week, the end of this season, or whenever it may be, I hope that he can find it somewhere in himself to show a little bit more respect to the clubs that have done a lot for him.
Maybe
Yeah.
he's jealous or envious or something.
He's naturally prickly.
It's definitely prickly.
Definitely. Well, shifting our attention from the not so important breaking of the milestone, because let's be honest, it's a big thing, but it's not as big as winning 4 points on any given weekend. It's certainly not as important as beating the bloody Blues this Friday night. Given that, I think it's time to introduce one of the arch enemy. Old Dark Navy, how are you this evening, mate?
Oh, I'm doing very well. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, look, it's our pleasure. Before we get into the rigmarole of the match discussion and all the important stuff, how do you feel about the incumbent coach currently breaking the coaching record set by Jock McHale?
Oh, look, I hope everybody sort of embraces it. I know there's a bit of bad blood around the traps with Mick, but I think it's, there's a lot of talk that he's only won 3 flags in that time, but they're pretty hard to win. And he's made a lot of final series, and I don't know. He seems to be pretty. He's a good man manager. He seems to be pretty loved by most of his players when they play under him. So I think it's a good thing. I don't know how you guys feel, being that a true Collingwood guy was the record holder, but I was going to come in with a bit of a asking you guys if you're looking forward to the return of a Collingwood legend in a milestone match, and talking, of course, about Cameron Wood. Who would have thought he could have made it to game 75?
It's a huge achievement, mate. Let's be honest. I mean, when we traded pick 14 for him, we knew we were getting a Hall of Famer.
Absolutely.
And well, look, just on a side note question, Dennis Armfield, I was always wondering how he continues to actually get a contract every year. Could you shed some light on that for me?
I think he's a good team man. And yeah, he's a good team man. He had the porn star stash going for a while there, and everybody loves those. So novelty value. But look, he's got good pace. He does the job. He plays a role. Does the job that asked of him. And Mick tends to like those sort of players. But he lost his pace for a while, and now he seems to have it back. So, he does a job.
Just on Mick for a second, because I always thought it was a little bit ironic, given that he gave Heath Scotland the shaft and then got the chance to coach him again. But what do you think that was? How do you think that dynamic was afterwards?
It's you hear things around. I know from a Collingwood perspective, there was a bit of a theory that Mick and Scotland didn't see eye to eye. They said differently, of course, once Mick arrived, but. Oh, I don't know. You never really saw them together. You never saw them sort of hanging out or him working with Heath at all. So I don't know. Do you guys think there was still a problem?
Oh, look, I'm sure Mick's professional enough not to worry about it.
I think it was 10 years on, so I think they probably, he'd developed a career. He was no longer a young player, and he was an established man, and he had something to offer. So I'm sure they worked that out.
Yeah, well, Mick might like firefighters, so that's...
He likes punchy boys. He didn't mind Dane Swan in his day, so he probably doesn't mind a bloke punching a few.
That's true.
He's a unique ornament of the game, Mick, and when he does eventually decide to call it quits, probably at the end of this weekend, he'll be missed, I think, by the wider footballing community. So, yeah, good on him and good luck to him. Let's turn our attention to the game. You boys picked up your first win on the weekend against the Saints. Let's talk us through that, and what are the expectations coming into this week's affair?
Oh, look, just mentally apply yourself for 4 quarters. Quite frankly, we are mentally fragile. We apply too much pressure, or things start to go wrong for us. We do tend to fall in the heap, and that's where we're at these days. I think we've got talent. Seldom will you see it for a full match, and Collingwood have had the wood over us literally for the last 4 matches or so, I think. So Mick hasn't actually coached a winning game against Bucks, so that's quite ironic. But I think the players do seem to love him. They're coming out every week saying that they really like him. I think they will probably put in an effort for him this week, if not for themselves. We've only got one hope, and that's run.
Yeah.
And that's what our side's built for now.
I mean, and I'm curious because I do enjoy talking to Carlton supporters about this. Because I know the theory was when Mick was brought in that the list was precipice of a premiership and a couple of pieces, and that was the idea, and he was the coach, and this was the promised land, right? Mm. To see how far backwards the club has gone, because it has been a couple of steps back. Obviously on almost at the tipping point of another rebuild. Which for Carlton fans has been too often recently. What are the thoughts have been on A, the tenure as coach, and B, the state of the list at the moment as it stands? Are there promising signs, or do you really need to strip it back to parts and go again?
Definitely promising signs. We're sort of getting in players now that they're not just your grafters and your hard workers and stuff like that, but we're getting a bit of speed into the side. You're getting some guys who can kick. So the like of Boakhorse and Jackson, players like that, and some of the Irish boys we're bringing in, they're actually really good kicks. And one of Carlton's biggest problems is we turn the ball over a lot, probably more than any other team as far as being scored against on turnovers. So I see positive signs in the way we're structuring our list. We've still got some gaping holes amongst with our talls, and the fact that we're going to, even at the defensive end, we're going to have to replace Jamison because he's basically injured every match. But I can see the midfield's really starting to come together, and we're starting to get a little bit of leadership amongst our young guys. So I see the good signs. I was one of those people too, thought, hey, we nearly made the top four back in 2011. The idea of getting rid of Ratton was Mick was going to be the cherry on the top of our premiership cake. And inexplicably, we had a lot of players just absolutely go missing under Mick. The likes. I mean, everybody remembers the heady days of the three amigos. Well, Betts couldn't get out of there fast enough, and Garlett just fell in a heap. And now he seems to be, he's still fragile. He doesn't want to work hard without the ball, and he's not exactly strong at the contests. So we've had to get rid of some of those players who looked like they were really driving us forward and providing excitement in order to get a work ethic in there. Yeah. And I still don't think we're all the way there, but we're really showing the signs. You see the likes of Doherty and Dylan Buckley and Patrick Cripps coming to the side now, and you can tell those guys are just going to work their ass off for the rest of their careers. So.
Those boys you mentioned have definitely been positive lights, and I think as we've even seen at Collingwood, and it's I'm sure it's a testament to everyone's coaching style. There are some players that coaches don't mesh well with as terms of personality, so you lose those guys, and you try and find the right guys in the right mix. And for your sake, hopefully the young guys there will develop the right way. From my opinion, the one guy that's missing from this week is the one that had the potential to make a huge difference. That's Chris Yarran. GC, this is a major weapon for Carlton that's out. How are we going to take advantage of it?
Oh, well, I mean, Chris Yarran's had a few off games against us, but he's cut us up at times. And when he's on, he's a very dangerous player, and he just moves so well. I think he and the other one I'm not unhappy to see on the sidelines is Troy Menzel, because I think he's the other one that's got a real touch of class. And I think that's what Carlton's list going forward needs, some A-grade elite players out of these young guys to step up. And you'd think Menzel and Cripps would be the other one, the most obvious candidates. Need a few to do this, but I think no Menzel, no Yarran takes a bit of class out of the Carlton side.
We've managed to do something this season thus far that I didn't think we'd be capable of, and that's show consistency. And at the very least, consistency of effort across all four games. And it's certainly not typical of the Collingwood I saw late last year, where we were dropping off in games and fading out. What is it that you want to see specifically? We know now the effort's going to be there. That's almost a constant for us. So where's the improvement going to come from that's going to push us over the line this week?
Oh, I don't think we have to improve to get over the line this week. But I expect that's true. I expect we should. Where I want to see the improvement come is I want to see in the delivery. And we still miss too many targets. And I saw there was an interesting stat that said, although we're probably the worst almost at turnovers, we don't get scored heavily against on on those turnovers. But if we could fix that up coming forward and start hitting some targets, it's just going to make our life so much easier. That's our clear problem.
It's good to see the young guys disposing of the ball better too. They tend to make a few mistakes under pressure and, just sit there and think, oh, God, why did they go that way, or why did they kick it to him or something.
Yeah, well, I mean, Seedsman certainly on the weekend. A couple Seedsman coming in and a couple more like that. Jamie Elliott, Paddy Kinesis this week can use the ball, so it'll be interesting to see what he can do. We need some good ball users.
And I think we have got a couple of good ball users in the side, but I think that obviously there's room for improvement. I think one of the big hallmarks of Carlton's game of a few years ago under Rats was the attacking play. That's certainly been lacking a bit this year. Back to form last week. Old Dark Navy, you bring back the former captain, or should I say the current real captain in Chris Judd. Mark Wiley playing his first game and Christian Jacks. Those two kids I thought were particularly brilliant acquisitions in the off-season. Wiley's playing his first game. What should we as Collingwood supporters be looking out for as potentially danger players?
Oh, look, I think you probably pegged it. I think Chris Judd has started the season in really good form. With Cripps and Wiley are true in and under players. That's going to free up Chris Judd to an extent. He's going to be more of an inside-out player, and you're not going to see him right in there as much, although he can't help himself most of the time. But he will be able to run free a little bit, and so will Gibbs and Murphy. So that's probably just a slightly more freed up Chris Judd, who doesn't have to go, have people on his backs at the bottom of packs. Is probably what you should be looking out for. And he's just got he's running around like he's sort of 25 again.
Yeah, he's certainly playing a good brand of football, and he's a champion. And as much as I hate to say it, I really do enjoy watching him play. GC, your final thoughts on the game and your predictions.
My final thoughts is, look, I thought Carlton definitely took a step forward last week. I enjoyed watching the first quarter and a half of that match, and then it went right off as far as I was concerned.
Yep.
But they looked a better side, and I could see what they're excited about with Cripps and that sort of thing. But I think they're still behind us, so I'm looking forward to us just continuing our momentum. This is a match we should win. It will be a bad match to drop, so I'm just looking for another solid effort. The same continuum of Buckley's boys now working as a team, as a unit, and they should put Carlton to the sword, hopefully.
I agree, that should be the result. But, Mick always has a way of getting his players up for big occasions, and this is as big as it's going to get for him, I imagine, for the rest of his coaching career. So it would not surprise me to see the Blues come out and breathe fire, at least for the first 15 minutes, like they have in the first couple of games this year.
And the other thing is that, look, Carlton in their history, certainly in my history of watching them, have hurt us more than any other team. So, the ledger isn't on our side at the moment. So we need to keep the pain coming to Carlton. We owe them.
Couldn't agree more. Old Dark Navy, I'm sure you disagree with that statement, but I do thank you for coming on, especially on late notice. You've been such a great sport.
Yeah, no problem.
But we'll be sure to give you a call back later on in the year when we have our second go round, and no doubt you can either rub some salt in the wounds or, well, cop another berating from me, I guess.
Well, let's hope it's the former.
Magpie Girl, thank you for joining us again tonight.
It's always a pleasure, Mighty T.
And I think you want to make an announcement on our new moderator.
Oh, I'm letting you make the announcement. You wanted the exclusive.
Well, I wanted to get the interview. We will get it, but I'd like to congratulate NT Thunder on his new promotion. I'm sure he can share the secrets of the kingdom with the rest of us now, hopefully. But I'm sure he'll be fantastic in his role. Always a fair and balanced poster. So, congratulations, great work, mate. I hope you're listening, because if you're not, it's kind of remiss in your mod duties. Promote the podcast and all. But hopefully we can get NT Thunder on and have a few words. GC, thanks for coming on again, as always, mate.
Thanks a lot, and well done, NT. Great to have you on board.
Yeah, congratulations, and good to have you as part of the team.
Absolutely.
And thanks, ODN.
Yeah, no worries. Thank you.
This is the Mighty T for another week, signing out.
I'm here to talk about round 5 rant. My rant for this week is how good was our victory against Essendon on Anzac Day? We were massive underdogs, and a lot of the experts, or so-called experts, are saying, how do we win? They could not see a way how we won. We'll win the game. Yes, when we turned out, it was a rainy day, which helped us, which made Essendon's skills not as good, and worst of all, they played wet footy instead of dry footy. And we played the conditions right, wet, and that really helped us under pressure. But it was just great to get a win over such a good team that beat Hawthorn and stuff like that. That was great. And it was fantastic. So hopefully, the problem things now is that we have to go and beat Carlton, because if we didn't lose against Carlton, then that almost runs out Essendon's win. But it was just great to win, and hopefully we can keep it up the whole season, not like we were last year where we dropped off in the second half. So hopefully we can keep it up and we can improve our kicking and have a chance at making the finals.